Hi, I'm Daph. Welcome to The Signal and the Spell. This is a podcast that is not none other. We are discussing all kinds of metaphysical topics, spiritual topics, and religious topics where we examine them from a alignment and frequency point of view. Um, I believe that a lot of people are misinterpreting scriptures, misinterpreting metaphysical systems as purely linear, purely almost where you say like legalism, religious, all this stuff. They just turn it into something that really is about self. It's really about am I aligned with this text? Can I live this in a functional modern way? Because it's so ancient, these things are so old, right? Introducing my co-host Crystal. I'm from the Shy, she's from Boston. And the topic we want to talk about today is the Ten Commandments as vibrational commandments. So we welcome you to a conversation that me and her are about to have about this topic. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Daphne. And I'm Crystal Light, and I'm just so happy to be here. So thank you.
So me and you have been discussing this now for about a week and a half. We did a study on it, and I believe that it was very enlightening after we discussed the Ten Commandments because it's such a common thing for especially Christians, right? Muslims study the Torah also. So Muslims and people of the Jewish faith, it's a foundational text. But a lot of people are getting crossed up in legalism to me. They're taking it literally and only applying it in one very rigid way. It's almost disturbing
Hmm.
because they're not looking outside of this little box that they've put around themselves. Because if they were, they would realize maybe I'm not obeying this law like I think I am.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I feel like a lot of the people I've come across, they are carrying it like a burden. Like it's so
Mhm.
legal that it's like a heavy burden, and they're not free indeed. They're not, they're stuck indeed. They're stuck
Right.
indeed.
There's that. It's a
Yeah, yeah.
feedback loop, right? They're just in a loop, like Groundhog Day. And we aren't even obeying the huge Mosaic law, right? We're just talking about these basic human decency commandments, and they're they're stuck. So let's talk about the first one, right? We're gonna talk about three of them today. We're gonna do a little series on this because this is a lot to talk about at one time. So let's talk about number one. Thou shalt put no other gods before me. I think people they they're misaligned to say the least. Um, when I hear "Thou shalt put no other gods before me," it's plain God's first because we recognize that there are other gods on planet Earth. There isn't just God. There are demigods. Like there are things we have placed up to the level of God. Right? There are all types of things that have become gods, and so when you think about source, like source frequency, what does that feel like? Most people do not know the voice of God in their own heads. They know the voice of a lot of other things, though. And so when you put other gods before me, you don't recognize the voice of God in your head. It's foreign. And when it does come down, especially if it's something you don't want to do or you don't want to hear about, almost immediately shut down.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think I've ever misunderstood what this means, but I watch in church especially people use this as a weapon.
Yes, I've seen it.
Weaponize this and almost like, well, if you don't come to my church, you're putting the world before God. No, 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 no. That's not the scripture because you're not God either.
Hmm.
Anything that you put before God is putting it before God. Anything. Your pastor, your teacher, your mom, your dad, anything. So it's just aligning with source frequency to me.
Yeah. And I noticed too, like there's so many levels to how they do that. That is done in the church. Like also saying like they'll combine it with like don't forsake this assembly, which I can understand, but there's a lot of manipulation in that. And
Mhm.
then just even, I mean, wanting you to sacrifice yourself, your energy, your everything for them and their ministry when really we have a direct ministry. We have
Right.
a
Direct
divine
connection.
direct connection.
And we all need to be participating in this work, right? Where not to convert people over to a religion, but to convert people over to God,
Yeah.
to get them aligned with correct behavior, right living, abundance. Doesn't matter if you
Awareness.
have a building.
Right, exactly. Doesn't matter if you have a physical that we have a building. We are a building.
Right. We're a
We
temple
are a
already. I'm a full
building.
temple right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. Paid for and everything. We good.
The best technology in the universe. Custom made.
Exactly.
I always call them like, y'all treat y'all cars better than y'all treat this gift.
So true. They
Like
do.
when you incarnate into the earth plane, we take for granted that we come in as a human body. There are lots of beings on earth. Please don't misunderstand that you could have incarnated as a dog.
Yeah.
You could have
That's
came down
powerful.
as anything. But you
That's
came in a human form.
that's
One of
so
the best.
simple and it's yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's so simple and it's so basic just to think there are so many people that treat their bodies uh less worthy than cars. Like cars, yeah. You make sure you
All
get the
kind of
oil
things.
change. You make sure it's clean. You make sure it's shining. Come on now. We don't treat ourselves that way.
Right. And
But
and
we
that
think we're
that could go
treating
there.
ourselves by adorning the car when you really need to like learn who you
Forget
are
it.
in your spirit, adorn your own spirit, the spirit of God in you. Like,
Hmm.
yeah.
And that can go into thou shalt put no other gods before me. If you're putting God first, you would take care of your body because your body is the temple of God and you and God are one.
Right.
You're carrying source frequency. Um, so that can go into the next thing. No graven images, right?
Mm-hmm.
The world today has millions of graven images now. Logos, structures, businesses,
Yeah.
celebrities, models, um, items like cars and bags and clothes, things that have um no God energy unless you put God in it. And
Right.
so when it says no graven images, it if you even if you think that you're obeying first commandment, the moment put you make a graven image out of something, like make something into an idol, you automatically are out of alignment with commandment number one. Because you're going to put it before God if you made it a God for yourself.
Right.
For me,
That's,
the most common graven image right now, especially in our community, is relationships.
yes, they have put that on a complete pedestal.
A lot
Um,
of people are not serving God in their relationships. They hear the voice of God. God is prompting them to stop. God is telling them to leave. And either through lust, guilt, or some type of loop, they're staying.
mhm.
Imagine, and I won't even say imagine, because this is real. Putting a person, most of the time, people are already being treated well. They're not getting the fullness of God. And
Exactly.
you
They're
prop
not.
a woman or a man up into the position of God, where you want to eat right, but this person's making you feel guilty for taking care of yourself. You want to look better, but this person's making you feel bad about looking better. You want to start to live right, and they're making fun of you for learning something new, or they're angry and acting passive aggressive. And you can feel it and you keep going. you have now propped up an idol.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, exactly. And that goal is always should be to feel good. I mean, that's where you're able to, I mean, feel peaceful, feel good, feel honorable. And when
Mm-hmm.
you're taking care of yourself, you know you're doing right by you and the God in you, the Spirit of God in you, it changes things. It
If,
changes things. I mean, we got a lot of parasitic people out here now. Well,
mm-hmm.
they've been attacked by parasites, they become one.
Mm-hmm.
And they're very misaligned, like you said. And I think that's a really great point how you worded that, because yeah, that's what they're doing. The goal is to feel your very best self, but people don't. It's a lot of selfishness. A lot of
And they let a
selfishness.
lot of things make them feel like they're their best, but their behavior is not the best.
Right.
Well, I have money. I have a Gucci bag. I have a Mercedes Benz. I'm with this person. A whole life out of alignment,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
nowhere near the mark. And we're not talking about legalism, religious behavior. We're talking about just aligning yourself with things that don't cause community discord, things that bring harmony and peace amongst all humanity and not just for yourself. Because
Mm,
we weren't born on planet Earth alone. And that's why
right.
putting graven images up is dangerous, is because we get, as humans, we get tunnel vision. This is a human condition. So if you're putting up idols, everybody's going to have their own God now. And guess what's going to happen with God? Gods compete for worship. So now you
Yeah.
have all these people walking around signaling, worship me, worship me, worship me.
Yeah.
Because they want all this attention and time and focus on them. So they don't
Exactly.
want to just get their own relationship. Now we want to, now with social media and the way the world's set up, they want to signal to others to validate. And it
Yeah.
just becomes a big cycle of idolizing things outside of God and ourselves.
Yeah. They jumped right into the social construct of the pool. They jumped right into the pool.
Hmm.
It's very easy to jump in that pool. It's very
Very.
in that pool that you don't even realize. And when you were saying graven image, all I thought about is the word grave in. So,
Right.
like when you make a graven image, you put your spirit in that grave, and the Lord is telling us not to do that. Most High is saying, don't make a graven image, don't, because it's birth in the spirit of God. Literally, it's like you're putting the spirit, you're trying to put the spirit of God into something that's dead, grave in.
Hmm.
Like if we look at it in a different, like great, because that it is, it's dead, it's useless, it's worthless. That's an
Right.
insult. It's an insult. It's an insult, and that's where it goes back to like remembering that we're connected to the Most High God. God is first. The Most High God is first, right? And the
Well,
minute you attach yourself to something, you start giving your life force, a person, a thing, a thought. You give your life force into things that don't give you life. You're
you're
guilty
giving it away freely.
and you're giving it away freely. You will literally put in your spirit, life force, energy into a grave in image in a grave.
Right. Deaden it out. And that leads to the third commandment, right? Don't take the name of the Lord in vain. I think people misunderstand this. So I'll say what I believe personally. There is no separation from humanity and God, only misalignment, meaning
Mm,
that we and God are one. We are all emanations, light of God, photons, whatever you want to call it, right?
yeah,
The only thing that separates us from God is us and our understanding of separation. So we separate ourselves from God with our behavior and our mindsets. But there is no, if everybody on planet Earth acted like they were a part of God and they and God were one, a lot of behavior would go away because they would be afraid that God could see them. But they don't realize that you and God are one. God is always watching. That's how God is omnipresent, omniscient, because God is everything, all things, every time, all time. God's having an experience right through you right now. And
mm,
so don't take the name of the Lord in vain. Is don't misuse your divine identity. When you speak on behalf of God, regardless if you're a preacher, teacher, or whatever. So if you're using your tongue to manipulate, to lie, to coerce, to intimidate, you are taking the name of God in vain, because you and God are one.
Yeah.
Because
And I love,
oh, go ahead.
no, I agree. Yeah. Yeah. I think about, like, I was just thinking the other day when I was in prayer meditation about how we are, there's so many people, there's like the victim campaign. And I'm not saying that people haven't been victimized, but like I said before when we spoke, like, I'm a victim of God's love. What about that? Why don't we just switch that around? Because really it is a representation of the God force in you. So every word you speak, you're speaking, you can speak the truth of what a situation may have been, but you can also, you're called to speak of things as though they are already what you want them to be, what they're
Mm,
supposed to be, what the word says it's supposed to be, what the Holy Spirit word in you says it's supposed to be. Like,
right.
and you don't get that if you don't follow the commandments, if you do not follow the vibrational laws. Like, you're misaligned.
Every day,
Misaligned.
all day. And
Yeah.
like I said, our misunderstanding of this one scripture is why people feel like they can lie, cheat, steal, manipulate. And when you don't follow these first three commandments, the other seven, you're automatically not going to follow them.
Automatically.
You,
Right.
it doesn't. That's why I started with these three, because you're automatically out of alignment with God and God's mindset, the mindset of the divine. The behaviors are not going to line up because you're comfortable putting things before God. You're comfortable setting up idols at all times, because idol worship balloons into other things. And then you're using your divine energy for your tongue now to be a snare to a lot of people. I know that's like legalism terms, but it really is. You're becoming a trap and a feedback
Mhm.
loop. Your energy is now entangling people into realities that they may or may not have ever experienced before meeting you.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't just start with one person. If one person doing these things was okay, it's just isolated, it turns into an infection in the community, where now you have many people willing to manipulate to get what they want. Many people without the mind of God now operating, like I said, on a parasitic programming, where how can I extract from these situations with my being? I started misrepresenting myself. I started even making yourself into an idol so that people can give you the worship that belongs to the divine. And that way
Hmm.
you can extract value from God's people without giving that real life force that comes with God. God's not saying you have to shrink yourself and hide, right? But you have to make it clear where the power comes from, make it clear who you represent, and make it clear that you speak God's words, not yours, when you are out in these forums. Social media, it's made it where you can set up a full illusion within 30 minutes.
Hmm. Yeah.
I'm real whimsical, right? So you see me in this little fairy garden, but that's how I actually live, right? It's not an illusion. And but I did it because I wanted to represent God in an outstanding, excellent way. And I make it clear, right? But some people will set up a full, they will have a whole show up. As soon as the camera goes off, they don't live like that. It's it's really just to prop up an idol real quick, use their divine energy to get something, get what they want to extract and move on. There's no heart in it. There's no love in it. It's just, I need to get this cash. They're gonna give it,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
uh, mm, it's
No
just
power. No
none.
impact, really. No real impact. No
And
real
they do make
impact.
an impact. They're leading people astray.
Yeah, yeah, leading, yeah. No, authentic, pure,
Yeah,
positive impact.
where the
Exactly.
community's shifting, right? Where the impact
Exactly.
is the community shifts into alignment.
Exactly.
Positive outcomes come. Suffering ends, and that's what I mean. Where if what you're doing doesn't end suffering, it doesn't advance the human collective, we have to start examining it and start
Yeah.
giving back to these vibrational laws, right? Regardless of our religion, regardless of our faith,
Hmm.
these commandments apply across the board for humanity.
Yeah.
All of humanity, they're ethical laws. They're just a code. It's a code of ethics.
That's right.
And I think people shudder at ethics. You hear
Yeah.
me? You would think you slap someone's mom.
SOP, standard order of operations. Like, really, that's what it is. Come on. Can't go nowhere without that thing.
I'm like, you would think that you was like trying to choke their kids out when you talk about ethical behavior. I can do what I want. Y'all just judging me. Judging you. Look at the community discord you're creating with your behavior and your mindset. You don't think that this behavior, like, I love music. You hear me?
I do
Love
too.
it. Sing, dance, all that. But the music that's coming out of our community, and when you ask about it, I've seen some brothers online really getting upset about the young female rappers and the distastefulness and the vulgarity of their messages, right? But those same men have music that's exactly the same. So it's like, brother, you got to stand up. If you don't
Yeah.
want to see this in our community, you got to be the example.
Yeah.
So it's like you're talking about something with a full catalog of disrespectful music.
Yeah. I
But
don't.
oh, because the women are doing it now, it's not. No, we all have to get into alignment.
Yeah.
Can't talk about something without living it.
Mhm. Yeah. So
So
be it. Yeah.
this is a segue into our hometowns, right? I'm from the Chi. You from Boston, right? Which I can't wait
What's
to
that?
come visit you.
I can't wait to come visit you.
I've been wanting to go to Massachusetts for so long, and I will finally get to go because it's like probably one of
Yes.
these states I
Great.
haven't been in for my 15th year studying in the Air Force, right? And let's talk about Boston's Idol. What is it, sis?
You know, I want to say sports, Fenway Park, nightlife over there. I'm not really sure. I mean, I see a lot, but I don't know what would be the
I think a
what do
lot
you
of the
think?
country may think that intelligence, right? Because
There we go.
all the
Yes,
big
yes. I always talk about that. Oh, everybody. That's what I know. Everybody got like masters or PhDs. I was talking about this before. Like they put that on a pedestal. Like, oh yeah, and then like in comparison, like when I go down south, it's like, oh no, not like. Well, my mom has two PhDs and she raised five kids and worked two jobs and blah blah blah. And
you be
it's just
like, and with all those prestigious universities in your town, there's a lot of elitism and
yeah,
a lot of putting before God, a lot of
yeah. There is.
misrepresenting divine energy.
That is yes, yes.
I I and I hate to talk about myself, to be very honest. It's like not my favorite thing to do. But when I was a child, I was a prodigy, like intellectual prodigy. So I got into a couple of different programs and I was invited to go to Boston as a child so I can get into Harvard. My mother was sternly against it. So I stayed in Chicago and stayed in the gifted schools there. Listen, I now understand why she said no. Because she didn't want to prop an idol. My mother's very religious. I mean, she loves God. And so she saw the pitfall for me because my intellect was already very high and I was like 10 years old. So she's seen the course that if I had took that course, what could have possibly happened to me? And so even though when I was younger I didn't understand why she was so adamant about me not going, I understand now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like yeah, a person's intellectualism can affect the life out of the spirit in a way.
Mhm.
Like it can consume, well, try to consume it. It's a false consumption because it's not really, Spirit of God is not
Mhm.
really, it's not how it works, but you just push it down. You just push everything down and out. And
Well, I've experienced like the mind can become a trap, right? It becomes something people worship. And so People who live in their mind have a hard time experiencing their body. They cannot embody their knowledge. They just are filled up, puffed up with pride, puffed up with a lot of knowledge. And when you ask them to do a practical application of that knowledge, they can't do it. And so over the last 10 years, I really have honed in, not just acquiring knowledge, because I am a brain, but can I live what I'm learning? Because if I can't, then I gotta pause and figure out why am I studying this? Why do I know this? And why can't I live it? Am I misaligned? A lot
Yeah.
of times you can't live what you know because you don't want to.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times. A lot of
You
times.
don't want to.
Yeah.
And I can
Yeah.
segue into the shy. To me, the idol in Chicago, trap life, street life. That's the
Yeah.
number one item. It's not a thing, even though Willis Tower, a former known series, could be considered like, it's not really that, because people, they just, it's just a building, right? But the struggle and the street life, I think about that show, The Shy, on is it HBO? I think it is. I'm not
I think
sure.
so. Yeah, I think so. I think I saw it on HBO.
Um, I watched the first season, but I can't watch it because I grew up on the west side of Chicago, born and raised. I don't like the representation because there's so much rich history in the city. There are a lot of affluent Black people in particular in that city, a lot of intelligent people, a lot of gifted schools and all that. And it's not highlighting that. It's only highlighting this part of life that's hard. But there are a lot of people in Chicago that are, I would say, top tier people. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I wish they would represent it, the duality. And so
Yeah.
when I see the music coming out of Chicago, the culture, the attitude they say our women and children have, the men, how rough are you? It's like the
Yeah.
Wild Wild West. It's lawless. Lawlessness is also an idol there. Can I get
Yeah.
away with the most?
Yeah.
I remember as a girl running down the street because I was so smart. People would beat me up almost every day till I learned how to fight.
Oh wow.
And I learned how to fight because I got tired of being beat up. But I remember one day, I think I was like 9 or 10, and I went to the pool. And I think I answered some questions in school right over and over again. And this was like years before this happened. And I guess a boy from my last class seen me. He chased me down the street and pulled me by my ponytail. You think you smart? You think you this? And it's like, because I wouldn't represent the other, because I grew up in the James Adams projects in Chicago before they tore them down. I didn't represent that. So it was like they so gung ho about their God that they will attack you in the streets.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to physically fight because I was like, no, I had to conform a little bit in order to survive. So when I
Right.
went to the Air Force, I was already ready, girl.
That's right.
The training was a breeze.
That's
I
great.
went to Iraq, not a problem.
Not a problem.
Iraq
Look,
was
I just get
actually
out of
safer than
Chirac. I just
Chicago.
get out of Chirac.
And I was saying, Iraq was safer than Chicago. I didn't have no harm come to me when I was there.
Wow.
And then when I got back home, that it was harder back home in Chicago than it was being in Baghdad with it bombing every day.
Yeah, I've
The
heard of that.
people, it was crazy.
Yeah.
That tour taught me a lot about where I was from and why they called it. Chicago needs another name because Iraq's safer. Iraq is
Yeah.
safer. Chicago needs a different, but I am very grateful that the violence in Chicago has waned since COVID. That has been a blessing. Um, but you start thinking about, what are people propping up? Why?
Yeah.
Why? It
Yeah.
doesn't make any sense, right?
The false illusion of power. I think money and power. It's the power stat like people will do anything for those things. I just and you can't grasp it really. Like you can't grasp it until you internalize it and really understand like the internalize the authentic power
Mm-hmm.
of the Holy Spirit. Like that is power. But a lot of people, it's just false.
Right.
And even if they make a mess of things and they see their destruction that they've caused, they don't realize that's still temporary too. In
Mm-hmm.
a way, it's temporary because there's a divine law in place that has already been encoded to restore balance. So it's really just an illusion of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, illusions causing confusion at that, and discord and
Yeah.
disruptions and disharmony. And they
Yeah.
don't realize that's a vibration. It's not just you're vibrating that. So you're creating that in your environment. Because
Yeah.
to paraphrase the Bible, what a man thinketh, so he is. It's in your
Yeah.
mind, it's in your actions, it's now creating a whole new, it's changing the unified field, it's changing reality.
Yeah. It is.
So
Yeah.
I just want to remind everybody, thank you for our wonderful conversations. Me and Crystal will be joining you all every week. We'll be live at 8 p.m. on Fridays to discuss our podcast. The podcast will come out at 9 a.m. Friday mornings. Um, just want to remind you, if your vibration is off, the mirror will show you what's misaligned. We're calling you back to alignment with source, with God, with whatever you want to call this energy. No other gods. Just get back to connecting. Just pure relationship. No idols. Stop putting things up. Stop worshiping things outside of God. And don't misuse the name of God, right? Don't misrepresent God with your words. And
Yeah.
so, what we'll ask you, check what you worship, check what you project, check what you name. We'll see you Friday.
Yes.
This has been The Signal and the Spell.